few announcements before we go into the study for today, as well as the updates. This announcement we're going to repeat with all updates and study session until it's complete. Number one, above all, we ask all Nuwaubians world over to come together in love and unity to support the freedom and efforts to exonerate our master teacher, Panabab Yanun. As people may know by now, he has a lead attorney by the name of Victoria E. Broussard. She is his lead legal attorney. That means all attorneys are under this particular attorney. So we ask all Nuwaubians to support the Law Office of Victoria Broussard Lawyer Trust account. And I'm going to repeat what it is. You can send your contribution to Bank of America account number 586-009-180076. Or you can send your donations to P.O. Box 393, Spring, Texas 77383-0393. You can also do a PayPal direct deposit by your email to PayPal victoria@broussardlegal.com, and I'm going to spell it out. That's VICTORIA@BROUSSARDLEGAL.com. That is the first and the most primary order that we ask all Nuwaubians to support. The second is this great building project that we have at this Papara, which all these updates are coming from. We ask that everyone support the GoFundMe project for the Building Temple project. And you can go to, type in your browser, www.gofundme.com/C3RRASF8. Again, that is C3RRASF8. And that's a building temple project under the name of Carla Thomas. So we ask all Nuwaubians to please support this great effort. And now the study for today is called Blinded. 1. Lahi ankum pa khamim salal kharadu afaf pa nataru. For you, the black race, children of the overseers. Nuwapu bi Nuwapu, or Nuwapu bi Wunuwap. Nuwaubians by way of Wunuwap. The natural meaning of the word positive, or nine ether, as taught in our own culture, Wunuwap, in our own Mahe papyrus, is a condition of natural nature moving towards standards, value, and qualities that grow better and higher towards perfection in dark, Nasat, energy, dark material, and neutrino, at a first moment called Waqut, time, by rules and order, and also ascending reason and purpose existence, on and in creation. On the other side, the unnatural nature, meaning of the word negative, six ether, is just the opposite of positive. By laws and chaos of man-made things, even a made man, kind of man, man's kind, kin to the original man. Ma'udam'u, Adamites, six etheric beings made 6,000 years from 2000 AD backward in time to 4000 BC. Unnatural creature and creation. Positive, by rules and bliss of original man, grown things, even a grown man. Humanoid, kin of which man's kind mix with. Mungaru, Nagaru, Negroids, 9 etheric beings grown with the Shems, sun, natural creative and creators. Khamim, black, is positive, such as the base of all life, carbon. So is dark energy and dark matter, source of all physical creation. Darkness is good, constructive force of 9, as a birth. White is negative, such as the base for all destruction, narar, fire, destroys. Lightning destroys, nawar, light, blinds. Brightness is bad, destructive. Qawat, force of Satu, 6, as in Janas, sex. The more Janas, sex, the more Tawat, death. There is no Nawar, light, in the Raham, womb. Once Ladud, born into this Tapal world of light, begins the Tashash, chaos, Dawaw, evil, sin, Jawadnus, wickedness. Nuwapu, you look back into Wakat, time, you will see dark, Salal'u, races, have in bliss, peace and harmony, built constructive great monuments. Maa'at pyramids, Maa'at temples, scripts all over the Kawah, Taha, planet Earth. And you will see the Nawur, light race, Labin, white people, as of 4000 BC, by way of war, violence, migrations to steal, lie, kill, rape, and disharmony, destroyed, burnt, broke down, left all in ruin, decay, demolish, wreck, rubbed, and waste. You have built as dark race. They have destroyed as light race. And they use in the name of the deity of light, first burning bush, being bright, glowing light, the Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, cloven tongue like as of fire, lightning, white light, the root of their own religions and records, the Torah, the Evangel, the Quran, the true Trinity. The Torah equals the Father. The Evangel equals the Son. The Quran equals the Ghost, or the Holy Ghost. Records of the Yahweh, Theos, Allah, God of light and fire. The heaven equals light. The hell equals fire. Their God equals light. Their hell equals fire. They are in fact all the exact same. Light is fire, and fire is light. It's the Zarah, seed, of the Adamu Salal, Adamite race, of ruddy, blush, rose, pale, and Labin Salal, white race. Barasi, leprosy, rosy, who made of laws and religious laws. And in the West, he makes sure that the darker people always have a light-skinned leader, or teacher, or preacher over them. Because he or she, being the lighter of our Salal race, will use darkness as evil or bad. Kamamlas, darkness, as bad, for that is what is the light or white race religious books the Bible and Quran teaches and was mistranslated into English. On this Kawah, Taha, planet Earth, they divided it into 2 time zones called Laylal, night, and Zaman, day, or dark and light, a 24-hour time zone. When in actual fact, there is no night and day because it's the Kawak, planet, that moves around the Shamash, sun. So the Laban, Salal, white race, to speak of his birth, the sunrise or morning light, as if the light, the brightness, is good and the darkness is bad. This is just another of their many lies and deception, for the Rayay sun does not rise or bring light. The Shamash sun always shines, yet it shines out of the darkness. It has a birth date, record, and it will die. The Shamash sun always shines. Darkness has no birth date, record, and cannot ever die. Light is limited, dark is unlimited. Light is created, darkness exists. The white race was made, the Kamam Salal black race grown with natural nature. So, the white race, his religious laws teach Kamam black is bad, dark is the will, evil, knowing that it is not the Sakak, truth. Then their own God Yahweh, Allah, was dwelling in darkness, as their own books claim. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 12 and 2. 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 1. Psalms chapter 18, verse 11. Yet Psalms 18:12, their Yahweh God, Allah, it says, the brightness was being him, his thick clouds passed hailstones and coals of fire. Now verse 13 also mentions his fire, as Leviticus chapter 10, verse 2, Isaiah chapter 24, verse 15, Isaiah 66:15, even baptized with fire, Matthew chapter 3, verse 11, Luke chapter 3, verse 16, Luke 12, verse 69, Luke 12, verse 49, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 7, Revelation chapter 20, verse 9. Their God is a fire of light, Labenus, whiteness, and made a physical race in their own or his image, a white race, a light race, a fire race, born out of the darkness of the womb. Job chapter 14, verse 1. Man, Adam, this is born of a woman. That is, Adamite race is the image of their God, Elohim. Alihat, gods, fire being two beings. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. Luke chapter 10, verse 18. So of course, the children of light will teach dark is evil. Who is the son of God of light and fire? Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. Lucifer, the light bringer, carrier of the torch of fire. Philippians chapter 2, verse 15. Revelation chapter 22, verse 16. So they will allow light-skinned persons of one's own race, of darker person, to be allowed to be leaders and teachers, because inside they have no problem teaching evil or bad is darkness, as they themselves are light, not as in narar, fire, or evil. They have been programmed to think they're better, good, the darker the people on Taha, earth, until they come to know Wu-Nuwap. The religions of the Bible and Quran teaches dark is evil, light is good. When you die, walk into the white light. This is a spell that only Wu-Nuwap can break, heal. Jews, Christians, and Muslim Negroes will present a light skin as your leader, teacher, preacher, even your own God, if you accept that you're under the spell of self-hate, a sickness from Adamite 6,000-year-old teachings. Nuwapu, Nuwapian, say, don't offer me a white Moses. Don't offer me a white Jesus. Don't offer me a white Muhammad. Don't offer me a white Masafarad Muhammad. Don't offer me a white God, deity, Yahweh or Allah. I'm black and I'm proud of it. No white person can save me, be it Yarapu, European, or American European, or Arab. I'm not blind if he looks white on the outside. He is white on the inside by a natural nature. It's about the mitochondrial DNA that is only passed on from mother to child. So the ancestors come by way of the mother. That is the person. If his mother is white, he is of a white gene. That is genetic fact. If a wise son, he will take a mate who is darker to strengthen his own seed and his children's seed. If a wise daughter, she will take a mate who is darker to strengthen her own seed and her children's seed. Negroes, stop preaching and teaching of a white God who has all the power yet does not use it to help our race at all. who does not stop sin, evil, sickness, disease, war, crime, deformed birth, virus, hate, murder, or rape. A white God, you say, is our savior, as blacks who did not do anything to change the physical conditions of our race, yet only watches as his race, the Adamites, abused us for 6,000 years, came 2,000 years ago in white skin, as Jesus did, not to help us at all. Now you claim a white Arab came in America to save us and have not stopped physical abuse, yet only just lots of words, speeches. Yet no kahin, divine power at all. Nothing changed for our race except words. And he chose light-skinned leaders and let the dark-skinned die. Malcolm X, light-skinned. Minister Farrakhan, light-skinned. Always the same. He called us Akhet Rayay, African, savage in his teachings, where he, W.F. Muhammad, claims to be the prophet, not Allah, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a messenger, not Moses or Jesus. Yet with the teachings, it did not remove the devil, as it says to come in his own good time to remove the evil of the devil, white race off the planet. Well, it's now 2000 AD, and the devil is still here on the Kawab planet with the same old devilishment, killing, abuse, war, stealing, lying, deceiving, still the same old devil, and nothing has physically changed for the Negro race since 1930 to 2000 AD. Truth is truth. Yet now that Wu-Sabat has confirmed the end of the devil's dominion of 6,000 years, you only have to look at Tapal, world, now to see his own fading out. And not by Arabs' religions of Islamism, not by Europeans' religions of Christism, not by Jewish religions of Mosaism. By way of Wu-Sabat, the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding, sound right reasoning, which give you right understanding. Now stop offering us and let us stop accepting those other than self and kind and their own interpretation of what we should follow and obey. Give our Bahu souls over to stop listening to leaders who have offered uncover our slave masters' teachings, worship the image of Adamite's race and their God, by whichever language, tongue, teachings of their Bible and the Quran, founder of Jehovah's Witness, founder of Seventh-day Adventists, founder of Mormons, founder of Nation of Islam, founder of Scientology, founder of Baha'i, founder of Ahmadiyya, founder of the Church of Satan, founder of the Masonic Order. Add Billy Graham equal Hoover equals FBI. You will find so many who founded organizations to which Negroes give their lives. They all teach the same God or gods, angel or angels, savior from 6,000 years ago, beings who came down to planet Earth, and as Genesis chapter 1:2 says, and made a ruddy man, Adam, in their own image. Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, Quran chapter 2 verse 30 through 31, a mischief maker, a shedder of blood, one who would cause corruption, a race of wicked, evil humanoids. Genesis chapter 6 verse 5, children of a devil. John chapter 8 verse 45, children of God, of light and fire. They all teach the Egyptians and the Ahu pharaohs were so bad. Maa'at Egypt is in Africa. The Rayay, Ahahu pharaohs were Afaf Rayay Ka'u, Africans, the black race. Yet in the West, each group founded by pale race leaders teach Egyptians were bad for allowing the seed of Abraham to come and stay safe in our Saka'u land. What was the first thing Ibrahim did was lied to the Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 20, verse 1. Chapter 2, chapter 10 and 12. What kind of man is this Chaldean to offer his wife to another man to sleep with out of fear for his own life? And Quran chapter 2, verse 130 says, follow his way. And when you read in the book of Paul, Acts chapter 2, it lists the people who were at the day of Pentecost, who got possessed by a fire being, slipped or cloven tongue, life as a fire, and its cysts entered upon each of them. This was 2,000 years ago, after the white race had taken over parts of Egypt. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1 through 3. That is, Greeks, Romans, others of Canaanites took over parts of Maa'at, Egypt. So you see, Maa'at, Egypt, listed in Acts chapter 2, verse 10, and Libya. And today you find pale-skinned Egyptians and Libyans all across North Africa. East to west, ruddy skin color, not the original seeds of Africa. They were possessed by the Ghabad, god of light and fire. Also you read in Acts chapter 2, verse 11, and Arabians. The last one also there is also possessed, speaking tongues. The wonderful works of Theos, god of light and fire. This was before the Quran was given to Ahmed bin Abdullah Muhammad between the years 610 and 632 AD. So the Arabs, or the Arabu, also have the split tongue of the devil. They also were there and now claim in their book, Quran chapter 15, verse 27, of the fire. Evil's created. Who created him? Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Their own God, who himself is of fire. Quran chapter 24, verse 35. The Allah is of light, and the fire, his 93rd attribute, is Allahu an-Nawur, the God of light, and electrical gas, light, incandescent light, was not existent in Muhammad's time. Only candlelight, which is lit by fire. Who creates fire? Or Sayir, blaze of fire. Quran chapter 33, verse 64. Allah does, who created. Quran chapter 38, verse 76. Wake up, Nuwapians, who created the many Manrar, hell's fire, their God of light and fire can be extinguished or put out. So how can someone put out Allah's light? By their famam, mouth. Quran chapter 61, verse 8. Warad, or blown out, a fire of lies with the wind or soul of actual facts. The God Yahweh, Jah, Elohim, Allah, Alihat, An-Nur, An-Nar, Rabbi, Al-Shadi, Al-Shadid. This is the being of light, which in the Bible and Quranic time was fire. To say that light only means knowledge is to really speak of the sparks in the human damag, brain, synapse, the nerve cells through which nerve impulses are transmitted, seen as sparks of light in the damag, brain. So if Allah is light as knowledge, that they are saying Allah has a physical brain, to be of intellect, that is Arabic. What is real brain sparks or synapse is also, is called brain nuts, spontaneous thoughts. Brain nuts, natat, spontaneous, that is natural nature, acts and reacts automatically. So to say Allah is light and mean intellect is to say Allah has synapse. To say Allah is the light of patat, heaven, and tahah, earth, is to say Allah is the sunlight. He is why the Muslim have the name of Allah as listed 93, An-Nur, the light, and all knows that the sun is 93 million miles away from Earth. And they have a chapter in the Quran, now 91, originally 26, just as a 26,000-year precession of the equinox. Arabic for sun, ash-shams, from the Hebrew Strong's number 8122, shamash, from Hebrew Strong's number 8121, meaning brilliant or a ray. Don't be fooled, Nuwapians. The God of the Bible and Quran is the same God of light and fire, as is found in the ancient Arabs called al-Majus, the magicians, Magi, mentioned in Quran chapter 22 verse 17, along with the Judahites, the Sabiites, the Nazarites, and Magi, the Magus. Magi, Majus, was in fact ancient Sumerians, Persians of Chaldea, where Abraham was born, the Persian wizards of Daniel chapter 5 verse 11. Chaldee, they worshiped the deity under the emblem of fire and became, in the 6th century BC, the religions of Zoroaster as astrologists, stargazers. The center of their belief was the sun. Center of the solar system, the zodiac, from zodiacus, and kikos, meaning shanan, circle. Shanan is circle. So they were sun worshippers. And today, sun become sun. S-U-N became S-O-N. Yet in their Bible, you will find sun, S-U-N, as sun. Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. In Psalm chapter 84, verse 11, you see sun, for the Yahweh Elohim, their Lord God, the same deity in Quran of Islamism. Wake up, my children. Break the spell of the worship of white life, the white race, the God of light and fire, the morning star, the son of the morning. You even read that Jesus, Moses, and Elijah shined. Matthew chapter 17, verse 1 through 2. Mark chapter 9, verse 2 through 3. Book of Enoch chapter 89, verse 41. And now for 400 years in the West, they have been offering you to give your soul to the white light of the God of light and fire in the form of the religion of Ibrahim. Ibrahim, for Adamites to Ahmed, from Adamites to Ahmed, Muhammad, the seed of Adam. Quran chapter 3, verse 33. That is right down to Muhammad of Arabia. They will do all kinds of adjustments to their teacher, translations of their books, Bible and Quran, to get you into their taqaqat, faiths. They send all kinds of light-skinned people, non-African, non-Native Americans, or black skin, to convert you to their god of Nawar, light, and Narar, fire, to worship the physical and mental image of themselves. In actual fact, they are offering you to their own Nan-Nar, Al-Shadid, son of Enlil, Baal, a Yahweh of the Elohim, or Rab, Al-Lihat, Lord of the gods, King of kings, Lord of lords. Revelation chapter 19, verse 15 through 21. The master deceiver, Revelation chapter 12, verse 9 through 12, who came down to earth in jasad, flesh, and damam, blood. These Anunnaki and Anakim. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 through 5. Genesis chapter 18, verse 1 through 2. Genesis chapter 11, verse 5 through 7. They use our own race to convert us to the image of the beast. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 18. Image. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 through 28. Wake up, my children, and return the religions to them of Abrahamism. That is Mosaism, Jesusism, and Muhammadism. Return their books to them of Abrahamism. That is the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the last testament, Bible, Gospel, Quran, the books of extraterrestrials who came or were sent down to earth to win you over to their overlords from above who are really extraterrestrial. Job chapter 9 verse 9, Job chapter 38 verse 31 to 32, Amos chapter 5 verse 8, who came down by 1,000s after the 200, Psalm 68 verse 17. Now in human form, the white race children of the bright shining ones of light and fire, seek your very soul in devotion, blind faith, belief, and offer you to their makers of 6,000 years. Now our own race accept and teach on behalf of the religions from Adam to Muhammad. The pale Arabs are with them, was with them, Bible Acts chapter 2 verse 11, and the Quran, the little book. And that concludes the study for the shadow. Are there any rereads or questions from the study? Okay. Moving on. Rahubat Yassar. 1. When a religion controls a country, you will have a conflict. You know this to be the case here because it says, "In God we trust." On the money printed here. However, things are changing all the time. In America, some states support gay marriage and others do not. However, the states having the hardest time are those states in the South because of the Bible purported view about gay or lesbians and the misinterpretation of Genesis chapter 19. In Scotland, they just legalized gay marriages as well. 2. There was a study that says 90% of biracial people are bipolar because you are dealing with two different bloodlines. The Adamites are actually bred to fight because genetically they are Vikings who are natural fighters. If you look at Genesis, when it speaks of Rebekah, it says she had two nations in her womb, talking about Jacob and Esau. Genesis chapter 25 verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Once the twins were born, one came out with red fur, and the other came out holding his brother's heel and had smooth skin. Genesis chapter 25 verse 24 through 26. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother. Out of his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was therefore three scores years old when she bare them. Genesis chapter 27 verse 11. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. This again is referring to the two types of Adamites. The first test for those Adamites was in the garden. Adam and Eve was told, do not touch the tree in the midst of the garden, do not eat of the fruit. Genesis chapter 2 verse 17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Adam and Eve failed that test. The second incident was a contest between Cain, who was a meat eater, yet a farmer, and Abel, who was a vegetarian, yet a herdsman, over the flocks. The next incident was between Jacob and Esau, Genesis chapter 27, verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessings wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Genesis chapter 25, verse 27 through 28. Verse 30 through 34. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. And Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did not eat of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed him, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy brethren. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he shall his birthright unto Jacob. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drank, and rose up, and went his way. Thus Esau departed his birthright. The Nagaru woman, 3. The Nagaru women are the 9th point star, or 9-pointed star. Nagaru men are the 8-pointed star. Kakasu women are the 6-pointed star, and the Kakasu man are the 5-pointed star. The strength of Nagaru hair is in the melanin, obtained from Nagaru women through the breast milk. Kakasu men also got a certain amount of protection or immunity from the breast milk for the mitochondrial DNA of their women, just not as much. And melanin is in all things regardless of the amount. Yet even they, as a people, not of natural nature, must mix in every 300 years, or they will die as a people. Also, the children conceived from the mixed religions with Adamite women receive a certain amount of protection from the mitochondrial DNA of the mother. Yet after the 4th generation, the plasma hemoglobin goes down, and their T cells, or white blood cells, which increase with the onset of disease or infection. So every 4 generations, they must mix in to survive. The black woman is feminine, or 9-mind, and are the 9-ball. The sun causes more melanin to be produced as sun genes. Number 4, there are people whose skin complexion is so dark they are considered blue or violet. These are the star children. They are the original people. There were 2 groups, those that were short, or the little people, and those that were tall, like the Watusi. Originally, Enki made 14 different species of men, and the Sands people went to work the mines. They couldn't use the dark Negaru mixed with, as when they did, their genes were dominated, being that they are natural nature and are a recessive gene. So they went back and took Nubians from Morocco, who were Spanish and French. Mixed with the result led to smallpox. There, many numerous diseases that wiped out the indigenous natives, such as typhus, measles, influenza, bubonic plague, chloria, malaria, tuberculosis, mumps, yellow fever, pertussis, tuberculosis, and an unusual virus type of syphilis. They brought the Chinese in to help build the railroad, and they mixed in with the Native Americans, and Latinos were a result. They tried to mix in with Cuban, yet they are mostly black and come from Nigeria. So there was a straight revolt. Some Cubans went to Florida. For some Kakasu, no mixing helped, and they are going to places like Alaska, because there is 6 months of darkness, and the sun actually hurts their eyes. They are like anti-sun, white, while others of them have to live their life under a bubble because they have no immunity against the common diseases. Nagaru can see in the dark. After 9 minutes of being in it, just as everything in nature has an opposite, and a correlation to nature itself. They are moon reflections, the sun's light, or the Nagaru. They saw who Nagarus are, being a dominant genes, and are trying to get Nagaru away from them, now because of their recessive genes, and are no longer pushing the blonde-haired, blue-eyed female, yet are pushing red hair and green eyes. Yet it is too late. The Nordic Adamites are already on their way to extinction. By 2060 AD, no Nordics will exist. Number 5, the violet children are a combination of red and blue and come from Betelgeuse, a red giant or red star, and Regal, a blue-white giant or blue-white star. These children were born during the 60s to the 70s. These hybrid children are beginning to activate in order to get in rhythm. They have begun to rhyme. When you're rhythm, you are back in tune with nature. When you're in rhythm, you are back in tune with nature. So although many may have regressed physically, they are progressing mentally. Number 6, in relation to the body or the physical, the soul is the placenta, the spirit is a yolk, and the shell is a body that houses it. The placenta is what attaches the body to the other world and supplies the spirit with energy. They do not want you to know these things and that there is a difference between Nagaru and Kakasu. The soul is the life of the emotional body. The soul is from the The soul is from the reservoir of all. The spirit is the all, and the body is. The all is I am. The soul is unconditional. The spirit is conditioned, and the body is conditioned. Once a soul separates from the body, it's like the placenta separating from the body. The soul either goes to Orion or Sirius. Like when the tomb of Assad was discovered, there was no body, yet a submerged stone coffin. The soul traveled on through to Orion after the opening of the mouth ceremony was performed, and the body was left to decay in a coffin. The soul does hover near the body for a period of time. The priest of Amun performed the opening of the mouth ceremony, yet all the internal or moist organs are removed from the body and placed in the canoptic jars. The heart was removed and returned back to the body, as it had to speak for the deceased on its journey. During the ceremony, Ashtet, Isis, was present as a creator deity and represented Cyrus. The heart was placed on a scale to weigh against the feather of Maa'at, and the body was wrapped up as a cocoon. The Ba'ah takes the Kah to Orion, and this is the only accomplished through the ritual. The philosopher's stone is the formula for eternal life. This Num or elixir and ritual were lost after Akhenaten took over, and the priesthood of Amun stopped performing the opening of the mouth ritual. The power of the Mafuzat is called Num or Numum in our language. It is something that the Sands people use this principle to put them in contact with the stars. Number 7, question. If the priests of Amun were the ones who carried out the ritual, and after Akhenaten the priests of Amun regained control, so why did they just begin again, or did something happen? And that is why they had to start to preserve the bodies through mummification. Answer, yes. They lost the Num because Akhenaten mixed his seed with Nefertiti, who was an Israelite. Nefertiti ended it, and she had all female children for him. Tut was the last child to be born with the Num, and that is why he was encased in a sarcophagus of gold. He was the golden children. He was the golden child. He was also the third incarnation of the Natar Amun. His body was prepared to be preserved and reactivated. Today, scientists are talking about cloning and recreating Tutankhamun and Ramesses, both whose bodies were mummified and DNA kept intact. Now, if you go to your Bible story, the birth lives of man was long as they had that direct access to their tree. Once the garden was closed and the beings returned, they would stop in every so often to set their genes back on track. As a woman, were hybrids and could not bear children, and divine interventions were necessary. Sarai, or Sarah, wife of Abraham, Genesis chapter 11, verse 30. But Sarai was barren. She had no child. Rebekah, wife of Isaac, Genesis chapter 25, verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived Rachel, wife of Jacob, Genesis chapter 29, verse 3. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Elizabeth, wife of Zechariah, Luke chapter 1, verse 7. And they had no child, because that Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now well stricken in years. There were many others as well, accordingly. Enoch walked and talked with God, Genesis chapter 5, verse 24. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him, and he lived to be 365 years, Genesis chapter 5, verse 23. And was taken up, yet Methuselah, his son, had to contact him, and he received his gift from his father, and lived to be the oldest man, 969 years, Genesis chapter 5, verse 23. As recorded in the Bible, Genesis chapter 5, verse 27, and all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died, as their access to this life-giving elixir faded, and as they mixed and generations passed, so did their lifespan. Noah was the next one to be perfect in his generations, and he lived to be 950 years. Genesis chapter 9, verse 29. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Number 8. Black men break away from the breast, where Caucasian men do not break away, and that is why they have such an attachment to breasts as adults. Masculine deals with the man's line, as in the bloodline, as men are linear and individualized. Now, when a Caucasian woman mixes with a Nagaru man and the 8-point star, she transforms from Femi 6 to Femi 9. Her chromosomes take a shift up. So you see many Caucasian women looking different, having full bodies other than their own, and they are differently as well. And they act differently as well. The Caucasian woman will remain shifted by genetically. The Caucasian woman will remain shifted up genetically as long as she continues with this Nagaru. If she should go back to a Caucasian man, she will regress and wash out. If you look at Halle Berry, she does not look like former herself. It seems like something has left her, and that's true. Number 9, sugar attacks your cells. That's why you shouldn't eat it. White flour, white sugar, white salt, white rice, processed food, it actually attacks fresh red blood cells. Number 10, the Adamites run on a different cycle than Nagaru. Their cycle are based upon 7. One day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. Psalms chapter 90, verse 4. For 1,000 years in thy sight but as yesterday, when it is past, as I watched in the night, on the sixth day of their creation, or Shabbat, after 42,000 they rested. Genesis for the Mesopotamians. In the book of Jeremiah, it mentioned a battle that was between the gods. Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 23 through 27. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form, and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of heaven were fled. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful places was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof was broken down in the presence of the Lord, and by his fierce anger. For thus hath the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate. Yet I will not make a full end. This creation was before Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. If you look at the Hebrew, it says Barashith, which means make, not create. Something new, and Shiath is the same as Seth in Hebrew, whose name means a replacement or composition. Number 11. Many people are caught up in the holy tablets still. The holy tablets was to carry us up until the year 2000. It just lingered past that, yet they are stories from the Bible and Quran. You are in the hereafter doctrine, which is what is really for us. The previous information were schools of thought that we had to pass through to get us to this point. Number 12. Here is an interesting point. The glutamus maximus that Nagaru are noted for is a developed muscle because it is what supports walking upright and just shows how long or that Nagaru have been walking upright the longest. Just as the calves of the Kakasu are very developed as being Homo canine. If you look at the front legs of the canine or dog, you see that they are small, yet the hind legs of the front legs of the canine or dog, you see that they are small, Yet the hind legs have a larger, more developed muscle as they run on all four, and it is reflected on the legs of Kakasu. If you look at the hind parts or behind of all animals that walk on all fours, they also lack the developed muscle. And when you raise their front legs or paws, everything is straight or flat. But animals has a developed glutamus maximus. That's the question. Pa Kawun Pa Sadat. And that concludes the updates for the shadow. Are there any rereads or any questions at this time? And what was your question?
Yeah, we just said that the Caucasoid male gets a certain amount of protection from, I wasn't clear on that part, from the breast milk?
Yes, from the breast milk, and that's because of the mitochondrial DNA. Because there's been an intense study on the development of the breast milk and how it affects the child. For one, a lot of the immunization that the child receives was produced from the breast milk. You know what I'm saying? Also, the emotional state of the child also is affected by what they drink from the breast milk, and that comes by way of the mitochondrial DNA. The Caucasian woman also has mitochondrial DNA. That's what makes her God also. You know what I'm saying? Not our God, but that's what makes her divine in her own genes. This is why she's Femi 6, and the Caucasian male is Femi 5, is 5 ether, or the 5-pointed star. You understand? So that's dealing with the genetics as well as the etheric state of the particular races. So this is where they get their protection from the breast milk. And ironically enough, you know how it's real? You all remember Katrina? What happened to Katrina? Yes, right, the hurricane. Okay. During that time, a lot of babies died, right? Because one thing he said in this update is the Nagaru got away from the breast milk. And what happened is a Caucasian produced artificial milk or Similac, right, for a woman who don't want to breastfeed, but it has a negative effect on the child as well. You know what I'm saying? Number one, it's homogenized, right? And homogenized is nothing but homo genes. That's one thing. And another thing, they lose that connection directly with the mother. So what happens is the children who was weaned on the breast milk, the children who was weaned on the, what is it called? The Similac, thank you very much. The Similac, when Katrina hit and Similac wasn't available, right, they rejected their mother's breast milk and they died. Literally starved to death because they just wanted to drink nothing else but the breast milk. That was another way of destroying our people. You feel me? And you'll find a lot of the younger women today don't want to do that because of physical results. They think it may happen. But in the long run, they destroy their own genes. Because again, as we read here, that also has an effect on the melanin, the amount of melanin that the child receives, you know what I'm saying, which affects also their hair. So this is another way of us degenerating ourselves. You understand?
Sure.
Any other questions, rereads from this update? Can you wait for the mic? It's fine.
So as the temperature on Earth increases, right?
Yes.
Where will the white people go? And what will happen with the black people? That's I guess that's two questions, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. As the temperature begins to increase on the planet, right? One thing about the black race or the African race, we were blessed with the encoding of an abundance of melanin within our bodies. Not only in the skin, but melanin is related to the nervous system. Your organs are coded, and your brain function is a result of melanin. Also your eyes. So melanin plays a very critical part in our survival on this planet, right? So as the sun begins to increase, for those of us who have purified ourselves, right, and not partaken of the poisons that's destroying the melanin, we will not be affected in a negative way by way of the sun. You know what I'm saying? In fact, the sun produces more than just heat, as we know. It produces electromagnetic waves that's coming from the sun in the form of radio wave, X-rays, gamma rays, visible light spectrum, and more energies are coming from the sun. So even your communication devices are based upon the frequencies that's coming from the sun. AM and FM is still energies produced from the sun that affects the grid of the planet, right? So we get energized by the sun. But in ancient times and today, we still learn to respect the sun because the sun can take life and it can give life. You understand? So, of course, don't be extreme. So in other words, if you're in the desert, because you have melanin, I don't need no water, I'm just going to stand in the sun, that sun is going to take that life from you. You understand? I'm just pointing that out there. But as the master teacher is teaching us more and more about our chemical makeup, our genetic and ethereal makeup, we have a direct relationship to the sun. It relates to our hair, it relates to the eyes that we have, it relates to the solar plex within ourselves. That's how the sun affects us. Now the Caucasian, on the other hand, are what you call melanin recessive, right? And they are expiring right now. This is what this is also going into. They are expiring to the point where they now have to mix in with you. They have to find a way to seduce us as African people. They have to attract the African woman to be like them and to mate with them. You know what I'm saying? And the African man the same way, to continue their genes on. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to prolong their 6,000-year rule from ruling from the caves. For years, even back when our master teacher was teaching in the 70s, he said they must return back to the caves. They're building caves every day. That's your shopping malls. You know what I'm saying? This is what, their AC units and things of that nature to keep it cool all the time. But what's damaging to us is we need the sun, right? We have a relationship with the sun. It's called photovoltaic. And photovoltaic, when you break it down, that's the voltage created by photons, right? So the way our eyes work in relation to the sun affects our solar plex. And we get a certain amount of energy from the sun. We used to, like Pam Nababianun, mentioned to us, we lived in a sun-drenched country called Africa, right? Where we receive 9 hours of sun every day. We stopped doing that. The children today are going into their schools, which is nothing but caves, right? From the wee hours of the morning all the way to the end of the day. And they're away from the sun. You understand? And the sun is so important to us as Nagaru because it affects us differently. Even our moods is based upon the sun. Most people get more depressed. You know it. You get more depressed in the wintertime. You get more agitated in the wintertime. You understand what I'm saying? People start to become more obese. People start to inherit more diseases because of your lack of connection with the sun. It's more than just the vitamin D, because that's what they used to push all the time. You know what I'm saying? And it is a fact because of our melanin, right? Mukasu or Caucasian actually age 20 times faster than Nagaru or African people. That is an actual fact. 20 times more because of the melanin within our genes. You understand? So what happens is they are dissipating or disappearing genetically. That's why in this reading he said there will be no more Nordics, because the Nordic is the original root race of the Caucasian race. They're fading out. Now you have mixed races of Caucasian, or what you call sub-races. And he showed you how certain sub-races are produced. When the Spaniards came in and mixed in with the Native Americans, right? When certain Caucasian mixed in with Nagaru, all these things produce hybrid people who are not a part of the original root races. And they're trying to rule through them. How do you know that? Because when you mix your genes with somebody, you're not only passing down your genes, but you're also passing down your spirit forces into them. And that becomes the problem. That's how they're able to rule the minds and the hearts of the Nagaru race and keep you enslaved with their white magic or their white doctrine of lies, because they have their genes inside of us as well. And we must perform our own exorcism of Wu-Sabat to eliminate that with right reasoning and right knowledge, which leads to sound right reasoning. You understand? So they're disappearing and they know it. This is why by 2060 there will be no more original Caucasian race. There's an article that I want you to check out. You may be able to find it on online, right? And this article came out in about 2013. And this is dealing with the fertility rate of the Caucasian race. It's a few scientists did an analysis on different countries in Europe to study the fertility rate. And they have concluded that the Europeans are dying off because their birth rate was not happening at the rate it's supposed to sustain the race, because they just wasn't having children anymore because their clock is running out, meaning their inner clock. One of the ways you know that nature has an effect on it is because their men are transforming into women right before your eyes. You understand? It's happening right on television. You see it. And they push it and promote it and try to push it into the minds of our children and us. You understand? So they're on their way out. That's what's happening with them right now. And they have to mix in with you and keep you a mental and sexual slave to them to live on. Excuse me? I would say they were very successful at it. They were successful for the last 400 years when they came and took us from, or ripped us from our root home and brought us here. And they transformed the African to the American Negro. That was a success on their part, right? When they colonized Africa and introduced their white lies and their white magic through religion, they were very successful at it. And it looks like they're still successful today. But one thing that we have to factor in is the 25,000-year procession, the clock of destiny turning, and the awakening of the sun people at this day and time. That means that we are becoming more conscious. You know what I'm saying? We're becoming more aware of ourselves. The need to know our culture and our lineage is becoming more and more every day. You know what I'm saying? Every time you see something on social media, let's say, every time you see something somewhere, we're trying to liberate ourselves. It's becoming more positive, in other words.
I just wanted to say something. What I mean by they're very successful at it is, like, I don't think they're going to achieve much, but I'm saying we as black people, other than when you're sitting in here and you're amongst your other people here, when you go outside and you look at black people today, we have a lot of insecurities, and a lot of us is still wearing, it's not just about weave, because it's with black women and black men as well. It's a lot of confusion with us, and until we get right and build up confidence within us and then unite, then they have nothing to stand against. And so when they do see a black woman and a black man that is together, I see the intimidation, and I see the fear. That's all I could just pretty much say. But until we achieve that and build up our confidence as people and unite, then there will not be any mix down of any genes or any deteriorating of anything else.
Understand, but here's the question, right? And I understand where you're coming from. I'm in the streets a lot. I propagate, meaning that I'm out there with the books, and I speak to people, and I see a lot of our people waking up. True, there's a lot of work still to be done, not only here in America, but world over, because that poison or that diseased man has spread his lies world over. So there is a job to do. The question is, right, and I say this because what happens is there's a lot of people out there who is on attack with anything that may not appear conscious, right? But they don't have the patience to analyze a problem to say, this man here is caught up in Christianity. This woman here is caught up in Islam. This guy here is caught up in their society. To analyze the root of the problem, right? And to take the time and be patient enough to take him by hand and foot and walk him through it into that mind or that nine mind of consciousness. You understand? This is something new here. This is not something new right here. Meaning what you see in this room. This has been going on for the last 50 years. Our master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, formerly known, but known to us spiritually as Pana Babianun, has been teaching in this country since 1962. And he came with Wu Nuwapu in the form that we see today, right? Meaning this outformation, this science, this spiritual knowledge dealing with us and how we worked our way of life, how we worked our black magic. But a lot of us wasn't ready to accept it because of the mental conditioning of the white magic or the white lies of religions. So it took 30 years, right? He had to put on the uniform of a Muslim and become a Muslim to walk us through Islam and walk us out of it by way of questions and answers. And then from Islam, which was the youngest, to Christianity, which is 2,000 years old, and from Christianity through Judaism onto until we start to want our culture. You understand? So in other words, it was a process of time. This is why he said, I came giving you what you want, so what? So you will learn to want what I have to give. And that takes time, it takes patience, and it takes love, and it takes compassion. You have to literally become a parent to every Nagaru you see out there. You understand? And learn to reason with them on their level, only to raise them back up. You understand? It's like you have to come down to raise somebody up, depending on your level. Because not everybody can take that. You understand? So, because I'm out there, I can see the changes happening. More of our brothers and sisters want to push the unk down. The more you educate them about the cross. You feel me? More and more people want to get away from the Bible. I find a lot of younger people, they say, you know, hey, are you religious? I'm not religious, but I believe in God. So you're more spiritual? Yeah, I can say I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Because they're getting away from that. So now I have a start. What is spirituality? Because most of the time people learn about spirituality based upon their belief system, based upon what the Bible said about spirituality with Islam or some other Eastern religion. But what's so unique about this, right, is giving you the spiritual science. You have the ability to scientifically explain the process of spirituality. And that's understanding what science is. And science is explaining how things grow in nature. It's explaining nature. You understand? So this is what we're stepping into. You know what I'm saying? So each one teach one. Each sister must be a representative of Nuwapu, of culture. You know what I'm saying? So when I see you, sister, I see culture visually. I see the Bantu braids, you know what I'm saying? I see the dress code. I see the smile. I see the prestige in the men. This is how we carry ourselves physically to show forth a culture. And that is one of the ways that we will find ways to cultivate. Trust me, we are not trapped in this small box right here. You know what I'm saying? We are a worldwide organized people who the devil targeted to topple us. You understand? And the only reason we're not as prominent as we are is because we don't have that love and unity we should have. Because we don't take the time to analyze what's in our own genes. What's stopping me from not agreeing, but getting along with my brothers and sisters to make something happen? That's why this doctrine is so unique. It makes you analyze yourself. You understand? You may have the mind to want to say, hey, I want to make a difference, but hey, I don't like that guy. I don't like the way he looked at me. How is that going to progress? And this is not towards you, this is towards our people. Because a lot of times that's what happens. I don't like that guy starts from two people to a war and years of conflict and nothing got done. Meanwhile, the real devil is still working his white magic. And the only reason his white magic is still working is because we're still feeding it. They feed off of us because they lost their blessings. They lost their protection a long time ago. We keep their ways in power. You understand? This is why I said earlier, they must rule from the caves. They must breed a black devil. You understand? They must breed a black devil, which is what they was trying to do for the last 400 years. To convert the African into the Negroid and breed black devils. Just like when they take a bunch of monkeys, this is a real experiment. They take a bunch of monkeys, put them in cages, and set these cages on top of each other. This is a real experiment they did. And they wanted to test the results. There were 3 findings. 1, disease was very rampant, right? 2, they were killing each other. And 3, there was a high fertility rate, a lot of births. When you go to your projects, what do you get? You get more violence, right? You get more diseases and more fertility rate, more babies being born in those conditions. And remember, one thing you have to understand about genes, right, is the conditions, right, set the precedence for the next generation. So it's now being rewritten in your genes to be this way. You understand? And this is something that we have to eliminate. Everything you do today is being recorded in your genes. You know what I'm saying? And whatever you do is very impressionable to your child or somebody else. It's very real. This is why we say this is a science. This is a spiritual science. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to run my mouth any longer about that. I hope I answered your question. All right. Any other questions, concerns, or rereads at this time? Has anybody read up on epigenetics? I asked that because our master teacher brought that up in the last reading. I would really advise family here and abroad to really study that. You know what I'm saying? Epigenetics. And ironically enough, when this reading came out, I just happened to turn on something on the computer, and this Mukasu woman, right, of the European race, spoke about epigenetics and the effects that it has, or the effects of Africans in America, literally, and how and why we have the problems that we have, right? And epigenetics deals with how environment and conditions affect your genes, right? You have 2 things that happen in your genes. One is inherited from you genetically from mother and father, and there's one that is inherited through conditioning, be it diseases or be it trauma in your life, and it's passed down through generations. It's real. You understand? Now you see why Pana Babianun for years said it's about the children. It's about the children. What we do today determines what's going to happen for the children, because you are rewriting your genes when you start to feed Wu-Sabat into your DNA, and you start to eliminate those diseases, those mental diseases. See, now mental diseases are becoming more scientific. It's real when you analyze DNA. You know what I'm saying? It's becoming more and more of a factor. This is why I could see more and more why Wu-Sabat is our spiritual science. And it's a genetic doctrine. You understand? And this is why we must do things together culturally, because it's going to create something, and the magic is going to happen. Any other rereads? Yeah, I love Nuwapu. I can't help it. So if there's no more rereads, I'm going to end tonight's study. Thank everybody for coming out, and may everybody travel safely. Wadu.